into the realm, as we were talking a moment ago, about legal historical proof. That is, that you cannot prove it, disprove it, or prove it scientifically, because we cannot go back and put ourselves in Joshua's shoes. There is no possible way that we can reduplicate the situation to scientifically ascertain the truth of the matter. You have to go legal historical evidence. What is true beyond a reasonable doubt? Right, now, these are some of the objections that science throws up against the Bible and says this book is an absurdity, it is scientifically inaccurate, when in fact there are plausible explanations, and Christians can be confident that there really is an answer. And in things that we don't know very much about, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. I want to focus in, before we quit tonight, on the major confrontation between the Bible and science. As Laird Harris said, the major conflict between the Bible and science is in the first chapters of the book of Genesis. The first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures cover two major points of disagreement between individuals in the scientific world today. Number one, the question of origins. That is, the issue of creationism versus evolutionism, and the other, the issue of a cataclysmic flood in the days of Noah. Some people reject that, others accept it. The first thing to note about evolution is that, as Morris points out, it is not so much a science as it is a philosophy or an attitude of mind, for the simple fact that it does not come under the realm of the sort of problem that can be reduced and solved by the scientific method. It cannot be recapitulated. It cannot be put in a controlled environment and reduplicated. So it has to come, it's a historical event at any rate. So it cannot be proved scientifically. It cannot be duplicated. The fundamental principle or definition of evolution shows us how different evolution is from creationism as found in the Bible. A definition of organic evolution is, quote, the gradual development of all forms of life and by natural processes from a common ancestral form, which itself had arisen by natural processes from complex chemicals in the Earth's primeval ocean. That is evolution. Whereas creationism is defined as the act of God in bringing into existence by His own power, miraculously, the existence of all things. Right? We have a completely different perspective. It should be obvious that evolution has no need of a creator. In fact, in the 1840s, when Darwin was writing, and in the preceding decades before him, these were men that were rejecting religion. These were men that were rejecting Christian philosophy and the church. And they had to supplant it with something else. They had to put something in its place, and they were looking for a mechanism, a philosophy of life, a philosophy, an explanation of the natural world that was completely removed from anything smacking of divine providence or divine origination. And so people today, Morris argues, rightly, that want to straddle the fence and believe in evolution and the existence of God at the same time are really being absurd, because evolution arose in the first place as a reaction against it and left no room for the involvement of God. So evolution is materialistic. Its whole purpose is to exclude God by substituting mechanism and the doctrine of chance. And the Bible and creation requires a creator and requires providential planning and execution of His own will. Concerning the details, if you read Genesis chapters 1 and 2, you'll discover that there can be no harmony between these two viewpoints on origins. For instance, evolution on the one hand says that life originated in the sea millions of years before there were plants. But if you read Genesis chapter 1, plants were created on the third day prior to animals on the fifth. completely opposite. No parallel. The Bible says that fish and birds were created on the same day, and evolution teaches that there was a long time between the development from fish of reptiles and then later of mammals and ultimately of birds. And the Bible puts them together in the same time period. Evolution, I think the fundamental thing about evolution is that it views man as having been an animal, and that man is arising from the pit and he is getting better and better, contrary to the laws of the second law of thermodynamics. The Bible says that man was created sinless and that he fell and became like an animal, a beast. And there could be no greater contrast between these two viewpoints, and they're both so-called scientific perspectives today. The fact of the matter is that evolutionism has spawned nihilism, materialism, fascism, Nazism, and a host of other social evils. Creationism always exalts humanity. I wanted to conclude tonight. There's no way that we could do real justice to this complete subject in just 25 or 30 minutes. But for the Christian, there is no neutral ground. It's been said that our guiding principle as Christians is God rather than men. If we fail to define the boundary between true science and pseudoscience, between our biblical creationist position and the theistic evolutionary position, we encourage our children to accept compromise in other areas, such as the miracles recorded in the Bible. For the non-Christian, some words by Henry Morris are very appropriate. He said that the Christian faith is not founded on wishful thinking or blind acceptance of tradition, but rather on a tremendous body of real objective evidence. You and I have no reason to qualify our belief in this book and to think that science contradicts it, because there are many people that live out a perfect harmony in their own experience, who are Christians and scientists at the same time. What I'm arguing is that this is true because God, our Creator, said it. He's the same one that made this natural world in which we live. There must be a harmony. Believe it for your own personal salvation.